I'm here with Nutrition for Beginners. We are on week 2, and I want to go over our 3 big macronutrients: carbs, proteins, and fats, just so you have a baseline understanding of what you are eating and what you're putting in your body. And the other thing I want you to understand is how to calculate the numbers that your body needs so that you learn how to eat and move for the bodies and lifestyles they want. So, on a very basic level, you have your 3 macronutrients. I'm going to put something on the screen to help you a little bit. You have 3 basic macronutrients. So, you have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. These 3 macronutrients are the macronutrients that make up the whole of your caloric intake. So proteins builds and repairs muscle tissues. They are complete. You have complete proteins and you have incomplete proteins. Your complete proteins are meat, fish, eggs, all amino acids. Those proteins are 100% animal proteins. You have incomplete proteins for people who follow a vegan and or a vegetarian diet. So beans, lentils, nuts, things of that nature. They are missing some amino acids, and some of them are either carbohydrate first or fat first. Either way, they do have some element of proteins. I have found that staying away from things like Beyond Meat and leaning on tofu or seitan, those sort of meat adjacent options are much better for people. The Beyond Meat tends to be a little bit more salty. It has a lot more carbohydrates and very high in fat, and we certainly don't want that. The other thing in terms of paying attention to the 3 big ideas is that we know with proteins, it is for every gram of protein, there's 4 calories. For every gram of carbohydrates, there are 4 calories. For every gram of fats, there are 9 calories. Now, going back to carbohydrates, that document that I just showed you, I want to point out something here, because oftentimes we'll see where people will say, I want to cut out carbohydrates. I'm going to start eating healthy. No carbs for 21 days. I'm going to cut it all out. Essentially, carbs gives you your primary energy source, right? That's especially great for your brain and your muscles. In fact, when you are working out, you need the glycogen in your muscles in order to get through it so that your body doesn't start eating up the muscles. This is why we need carbohydrates in our bodies. But we have to pay attention to, are we filling our bodies more with simple carbohydrates, right? Your dried fruits, your sugars, candy, donuts, all of those things, cake, desserts? Or are we giving our bodies complex carbs, whole fruits, whole grains, beans, veggies, rice, etc.? 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. There's absolutely nothing wrong with carbohydrates. We just want the carbohydrates mostly that look like these here on the right, your complex carbs, versus this candy, the chocolates, the desserts, sugary cereals, and things of that nature. The next thing I want you to be aware of is how you are taking in your fats and where your fats are coming from. You want your fats to be healthier fats. So things like your eggs, egg yolks, yogurt, cottage cheese, low fat milk. You want things like nuts, seeds, nut butters, chia seeds. All of those are great sources of fats. Other sources of fats that come into play that we need come from some of our fish, some of our fattier meats. Those are great places to get great fats from. There is absolutely nothing wrong with a little fat from chicken thighs. It will never get you wrong. Now, I'm not talking about fried chicken thighs. Slow down. We don't want to get that place. But chicken thighs are a great source of fat. Salmon is a great source of omega-3 and omega-6 fats. We need those fats in our bodies. They're great for women for our hormone regulation and all of those things. So we want to make sure we're getting those in. Now, when it comes to figuring out how much of these you need, there's a great calculator that you can use. If you go to calculator.net, there's a few different ways you can figure some things out. Now, if you go to different calculators, you'll see things like your BMI calculator, your BMR calculator. What I want you to focus on is looking at the TDEE calculator. And I'm going to put this one up on the screen for you in a minute, because Your TDEE calculator is going to tell you your total daily expenditure of energy. And that simply means how many calories your body needs for the work that you are doing. So if you are sedentary, if you go to the gym often, all of that makes a big difference in the amount of calories you're taking in and what your body needs. I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a power lifter, and so I take in my significant share of carbohydrates and proteins and fats. Now, calculator.net is free. Is it 100% fail safe? Absolutely not. But it's a great starting point for anyone who's trying to figure out how many calories, how much proteins and fats and carbs they need to take in. Your BMI calculator is just going to give you your BMI, your body mass index. This is what we see when we look at the charts in the doctor's office. So, does it take into account what your current body weight is, what your muscularity is, your activity? Absolutely not. In fact, for the sake of showing you all, I am 48 years old. I am 4'8". I'm standing at an even 200 pounds today. This tells me that I am obese class 1 and I have a 30.4 BMI. That is very inaccurate. This has no clue how much muscularity my body is holding on to. And so when I'm trying to figure out how much I want to eat, that doesn't give me a good picture. If I go to the BMR calculator, the BMR calculator is going to act similar, except it's going to take into account some of my activity on the right here. My BMR, my basal metabolic rate, estimates what my body needs while at rest. If I was just completely in the bed doing absolutely nothing, how many calories my body needed to sustain if I just did that. Think of it like how long a car could sit in idle until it runs out of gas. So this tells me that at my age, my gender, my height, my current weight tells me that my BMR is 1586 because of my age and this weight, presuming that I am 200 pounds without a lot of muscle. Now, here's an important thing to look at. Activity level. My activity level is here. So that means my body idling needs more along the lines of this 2400. Now, let's go back up to the calculators. The TDEE. This is my total daily expenditure of energy. If I change this up and I put in moderate exercise, it's going to give me more numbers. This tells me how many calories I need to sustain my body with my current activity level. And then it gives some suggestions on a calorie deficit number. Now, are these numbers 100% accurate? No, they're not. This thing does not know me. It doesn't know what I'm doing. If I'm constantly taking in, or if I'm consistently taking in 2,500 calories a day, and then I drop down to 2,300, that's a 200 plus calorie deficit, which is completely reasonable. But the mistake that a lot of people make is that they go in and they look at this and they say, oh my goodness, 2,500 calories is a lot. I'm going to go for extreme weight loss and go down to 1566. That is a 1,000 calorie deficit. And the reason why many people cannot maintain a calorie deficit is because they go too low, too fast. So my suggestion is start high, reduce it down by 250 calories, and see how you feel from there. Once you know some of your numbers, you can then begin to track your food, see what you're eating, and how consistent you're doing with that. You can put all of this information into MyFitnessPal and track your numbers every day. So at the end of the day, you can know what your calorie range is, but also how that breaks out over your macronutrient spread. A basic macronutrient spread can be 35% protein, 35% carbs, 20% fats. For women, you might want to take that up to a little bit about 25% fats. If you are really trying to cut a significant amount of body fat, you have to play with those numbers to figure that out. I can't tell you what that is right here because I don't know you. But 35, 35, 20 is a really simple baseline to follow. It gives you an idea of some balanced plate for moving forward. But give those a try, and I'll see you next week for Nutrition 101.